Hello, everyone. This is Brett Suttles with Revizto coming to you guys today with a webinar, a global webinar today on advanced reporting. And what we're going to really cover today is we are going to take a look at not only where the data that we can report on comes from, but actually dive into some of the examples and some of the use cases that we've seen and actually sort of tackle some of our more and explain some of our more advanced reporting techniques, and also discuss some of the other ways that this data can actually get out of our system. This is going to be a very general webinar as far as industry is concerned. Now, what I've done today is I've brought in two of my other implementation managers that will be operating on Q&A for me, as well as be involved in the chat or the Q&A at the end. So I have David Ray with me, who is our implementation manager of architecture. And I also have Travis Outhouse with us, who is our implementation manager for MEP. So they will be doing the Q&A portion. My name is Brett Suttles. I'm the Global Director of Customer Success here at Revizto. And I work with my team to basically make sure that Revizto is successfully implemented in all of our customers' operations. So we'll go ahead and dive in here. So the first thing that I want to talk about in the webinar is what is it and why would we do it, right? So anybody that's in the webinar that works with data in any sort of way understands that over the past couple years, and even before that, many could argue, that there has been really a push to visualize this data and make it a little bit more consumable than columns and grids and endless fields of data that are not represented in a meaningful way, especially for people that do not work with data every single day. So what dashboarding and reporting allows us to do is not only visualize this data in multiple ways. As you can see with some of the examples, we're looking at different pie graphs built on different sorts of data, such as priority. Over there, we can see an accountability chart for different clash issues on a project. And we can also see, project health type reporting through our weekly status flow, or even some of our line graph reporting capabilities. You can also see an example of an issue coming through on a report. So really what dashboarding allows us to do is quickly visualize different sets of data based off of the different metadata that is used to build that dashboard. And the reporting allows us to actually dive deeper into the issues and the communication that's going on inside of that particular issue. So dashboarding and reporting are not necessarily the same thing, but they do feed off of each other. And in a lot of ways, many of our clients have resorted to using dashboards as their day-to-day visual cues as to where the data is, and then actually reporting from those dashboards. And we will actually show an example of that as we get through here. So as you can see, I've, oops, got to get rid of this here. As you can see over on the left, I've got some text there that I haven't really said word for word, but this recording will go out. And basically, it's a brief description of what dashboarding allows the user to do inside of Revizto. Now, as I push through here, one of the things that I think is very, very important about reporting is understanding what type of data that you can use to report on. There are various types of data that we use that come from different types of systems. So, for example, we can pull metadata from clash tests and tell you where the clash grids are, what the clash category is, what the source file is from the clashes. We can also add our own metadata to issues that are found inside of our application. So if you're doing a model fly-through and you find an issue, you're going to be able to go through and add various types of metadata to that issue. So that could be anything from a tag to represent a coordination meeting to using a stamp in a certain category to make sure that we're keeping track of all the stamps that happen inside of that discipline or trades category. keep in mind that reporting is extremely flexible, and we see it used in many, many different ways across many different firms inside of the same industry, as well as firms across industries. For example, a GC may set up their project to where each of their trades and their design partners have their own categories of stamps. Thus, anything that's created with those stamps gets reported to and it visualized in the dashboard for those trades. As to where some of our MEP clients that use it for internal coordination may be using a more simplified set of stamps to represent a piece of submittal information, or simply looking for verification from the site foreman on a spool or something along those lines. So there are ways that not only we can use it in different sorts of, looking for different sorts of end results, but we can also use it differently inside of the same collaborative environment, depending on how the setup is. Here I have listed out the different types of data that we use in reporting. So as you can see, we have quite a list of different types of data that we can use, including metadata coming from Navis, or even metadata coming from some of our RFI integrations with something like Procore. So, in here, we can report on a class test. We can report on issues found, on an iPad out in the field. And we can also report on different types of RFI statuses and types that have integrated with Procore. And as we add these integrations, you're going to see that we are going to be pulling as much of this metadata as we can from these different locations. All right, that's going to be saved to the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump out into the application, and we're simply going to go through kind of from beginning to end, where the data starts and where it ends up at in reporting, and then even briefly discuss some of the methods that we have to even get this out of Revizto and into different things like Power BI or SharePoint, SharePoint dashboards, different things like that using our console or our reporting tools. So I'm going to jump out of here and jump into the application. So anyone that's familiar with Revizto kind of knows how our software works. It's a model and sheet-based issue tracking system. We provide a lot of hypermodeling tools. We try to retain a lot of that BIM intelligence as we go in. And that has a lot to do with the graphical aspect of Revizto. So while we're not going to touch on that today, I figured it was worth a mention, especially because metadata is going to come from those two different types of environments. It could be, I want to see all the issues that are on a sheet, or it could be, I want to see all the issues that are from a class test on a certain level. There are different types of places where this data can come from. Now, the easiest way to understand a lot of the data that you can report on is simply by accessing our filter here. Now, not every single one of these is reportable, but most of these are. And this is where a lot of the metadata that is used for filtering or reporting or dashboarding can actually be seen. And we're going to see this as we go into reporting as well. So if I look here, we can see as we click through the filters, I have various types of data that I can use to separate issues, including custom tags, watchers, reporters, priorities, even categories as to what categories these stamps fall under. And I think it's very important to point out that we try to automate as much of this as we possibly can. And a lot of that is coming through our stamp tool. If I click here on the stamp tool, what you'll notice is that we have a category. That is a reportable and a piece of metadata that can be put to a dashboard or a report or a filter. The stamp abbreviation is another layer of data that can be used in these types of reportings. So I could create a report on the architectural punch list as a whole, containing all of these issues, or I could create a report on the on this specific door repair issue. So what we do is we make it to where you can click an issue into place, automatically filter it, automatically report it, and then automate the deliveries of those reports via our reporting tool, which we will get to here in a second. Another thing to keep in mind is that as we template out these categories in these stamps, we can also control all these various other types of metadata, such as priority, watchers, tags, and so on. So this is kind of where all of this starts, right? In our model fly-through issues, it's going to start on stamp categories, stamp abbreviations, and tags. If you are not using stamps and you're using the standard issue creation, a lot of that categorization is going to happen with tags. And regardless of if it is a standard issue or a stamped issue, all of the metadata you see assigned to the actual issue is also reportable as well. So what you see here on the right pane is another source of reportable data. Now, if we get into clash detection, right, and we start to look at various clashes, and I expand this, we can actually see that there is even further additional metadata inside of the clash test. And this is another source of reportable data. What category does it belong to? What discipline? What source file is it coming from? What are the grid locations of this specific problem? These are all things that we can report on as well. So the thing about reporting inside of Revizto is that where we used to work inside of Navisworks, for all of my GCs that are in the room, or my MEP people that have done coordination or led coordination in the past, you'll see that we can report out the same type of data that you were doing with XML reports, only we can automate it and we can make it to where the report is always accurate in real time. Now, you can now extend that exact same capability to red lines found in 2D, general issues found in 3D walkthroughs, clash detection issues, or even, as I said earlier, RFIs or anything that have to do with our Procore integration or any of the integrations that we are doing with PM solutions in the future. So I wanted to point that out, that all of that is a source of what we're actually looking for here. Once again, if I jump into something like a floor plan, and I actually look at the issues here. So let's go through and reset those filters. As you can see, I can see tons of issues on this sheet. Every one of these issues that is a red line markup understands what sheet it lives on, as you can tell by the ability to filter that out. This is what I want everyone in the webinar to understand, is that this data is pulled in and created inside of Revizto for you to use. Now, as we go through here, what we want to do now is we want to actually jump into the reporting functions of the software. So I'm going to jump up here, and I'm going to jump into the actual dashboarding and reporting tool for the project that we have open. The dashboarding and reporting tool is held on the Revizto workspace. So your workspace is your online hub that connects to all of your projects that live in the cloud and allow you to pull data from them. As you can see here, we can do different sorts of dashboards inside of a single project. Now, the one that I'm going to focus on is the general one right here, because this is going to allow me to explain what can be done with reporting, as I'm going to explain it, and then I'm going to walk through a few of these instances. First off, reporting can be very, very high level. It can also be very, very granular. So we can report on something as broad as what you see here. How many issues did we have on September 1st? How many issues do we have on September 30th? Where have those issues ended up over the course of 30 days? How many new issues do we have? how many have been moved into solved, or how many have been moved, or how many have been closed. Looks like we have 31 issues that were open on the first that are now closed. We had 2 issues that were in progress on the first that are now closed. How many are solved, awaiting to be passed through the approval process, whatever that may be, whether it's a QA, QC, or a design review approval. Either way, we can see now that there are 6 that used to be open that are now awaiting that approval. This is a really, really popular graph among some of our PMs and CMs and project executives, because it allows them to quickly see, even though we're getting new problems, are we solving old problems? Are we pushing information out of the red bar and into the green bars? And if we are growing in the amount of issues that are not being solved, is that creating a problem with our ability to get to our schedule or hit our scheduled dates or anything like that? So really, really important to notice that we can go high level or very low level, as we'll kind of show here. Here we can get into something a little bit more granular. So now we're not looking at how many issues do we have, how many have been solved, where are we at today. Now we're driving accountability among a team. How many issues does each individual have? What are the statuses of those problems that that individual does have? What about, okay, so here are all the issues that individual has, but how many of those issues are clash detection issues? As you can see, these charts represent different types of data. What issues are due today? How many critical issues do we have to solve by the end of the day? And what are the overall priorities of the majority of our issues? As you can see, we've got quite a few issues up here in critical, about just as many as we have on ones that do not have any priority. So there's a lot of different types of insights that you can get here. One of the ones that I always like to use at my old job was, who has too much work and who could chip in and provide a little bit more assistance to some of these other team members. So when I look at this chart here, I could easily tell, well, it looks like we need to take some of the things off of Brett's plate and spread it to some of the other users in the project that just are not carrying that specific type of workload. Here we can look at the clash reports, access issues, all of that. So very, very high level. Another thing that I like to show is, as this is still a bar chart, notice the title of this chart, coordination meeting. One of the things that we can do with our custom tags is allow you to tag meetings that are, or tag issues that are slated to be discussed in a coordination meeting, and then use those to communicate those issues to your users before the meeting even begins. Then in the meeting, we can use that filter to run through the issues, and then we can generate a report to follow up on those issues after the meeting is over. So if I come in here to my presets, let's say that we're 1 week before the meeting begins. I can jump in here and I can say, all right, I need to set up for a coordination meeting. Maybe that's November 1st. I can click right there and I can see these are the issues that are going to be discussed at that specific coordination meeting. This allows you to communicate that out and then use this to go issue by issue in the meeting, but more importantly for what we're talking about here, it allows you to hold everyone's feet to the fire for the action items that have been discussed in the meeting. Here we can see even more granular type of data where we're actually charting different types of issues based on their status or an individual tag or anything along those lines. So I kind of wanted to go through and show the breadth of what types of reporting that we could actually do inside of our system. Here we can see clash tests. Obviously, we had a big spike in the structural versus mechanical open issues that was also brought back down to 0 after that meeting. So that may indicate, a clash test was pushed on that date. We got through about a month. We brought those issues back down to 0 and got all of those issues washed out. So dashboarding is very, very popular among our users and is used from top tier management all the way down to designer, detailers, and even administrative assistants are getting involved in using Revizto to benefit the overall company and the understanding where the project is at. Now, on top of this, we also have our reports. Now, our reports, what they do is they're going to allow you to push out an individual selected and filtered set of issues to a specific list of issues on a paper report. There is no visual aspect to the reports. Now, I will say this. Reports were one of the first things that we did as far as these analytical types of tools go. What a lot of our clients have been doing is that in the dashboard, you can now set it up under delivery to where you can specify and automate the delivery of that dashboard, but you can also accompany the dashboard with a report. So now you can control dashboards and report on the issues that create that dashboard all in one swoop. So in here, if I wanted to take this project health view, automate it to where on the weekdays, on Monday at 7 a.m., we report that issue out and we do it with the accompanying issues, we can then choose, do we want to include the company logo? Do we want to include the commentary? Do we want to include updates or larger images? So this is really, really important to how the report actually looks. Some people or some companies don't want to see the comments. They just want to see the screenshot and they want to see where it's located and they want to see the ID number, all of that. And some organizations want to see the commentary and the updates to follow that line of progression from the time the issue was found till the time that it was resolved. Either way, we can include all of this in here into our reports, and we can even add additional fields of information that we need to see on that report. So for example, if I want to come in here and say, I want to show what sheet the issues are on, if they're a red line on a sheet, I want to see the clash grid X and Y if they are a clash detection item. I want to see where the source file is located. I want to see what test it's coming from. And I also want to see any of the tags that are associated with that issue. I can actually add that additional data into that report and then choose a time format or an order of how I want to order these issues based on priority or ID number or anything along those lines, and then choose if that is an ascending sorting or not. Down here, I can simply add the email that I want to automate this report to based on the dashboard and say okay. And now every Monday at 7 a.m., I will receive a report that relates to this specific dashboard, no matter what the topic of the dashboard is, and I will see those issues. So what I want to do is let's go ahead and minimize all of this, and let's take a look at that specific report. So as I jump into the report, actually that is not my project health one. Let's see if this is the one that I'm looking for. Here we go. We'll go ahead and use this as an example. Here you can see that we have our company logo, name of the report, screenshot of the project, Here we have the graph that is making up all of the issues that we are looking at in the report. And down below, we begin to show the individual issues and the viewpoints for each one of those issues, including any of this metadata that happens to be associated, such as showing the clash grid, showing the source file, showing the communication behind this, as well as providing any sort of hyperlinks needed from that report back to the Revizto project. So if I click on that and I go back into Revizto, I will be taken back to that item right there. So in a nutshell, if we go to reports, all reports are generating that listed out report without the visuals behind it. So if we do not want a dashboard, but we still want to provide that report in any sort of situation without the visual dashboarding part of it, we would do that here. But like I said, many clients are utilizing the ability to generate reports and dashboards simultaneously and having that data correlate to each other as they're generating these. So let's go ahead and let's jump into how to create a specific report inside of our software. So what I want to do now is I'm going to add an entire new dashboard. We are going to build up a new dashboard and generate a report inside of that dashboard and show how that works. If I add a new dashboard to the project, I can go ahead and name what I want that dashboard to be. Now keep in mind, when we're doing this reporting, we can generate dashboards for all the individual trade partners or design partners on the project. The mechanical sub can have a dashboard. The architect can have a dashboard. The general contractor can have a dashboard. These are basically flexible to the point where you can populate them with any information that you want. In here, I can also provide any sort of presets that I've created in the past. So if I have a specific standardized way that I want to report on this project based off of a template project, I can do that here as well. So as you can see, I can import any of those, and I can also choose if I want these dashboards to contain public issues only or actually contain public and private issues. Keep in mind that if we do private issues, the people that see this report have to be invited. As to where with the public issues, I can make this dashboard available to all the project members. And I can even create an invitation-only situation for any individual dashboard. Once I generate this dashboard, I say, okay, I've got my name, I've loaded my preset, I've got my privacy options, as well as who can see this. And I can also choose a color if I want that webinar dashboard to be in there as orange. I can say okay. And now I have a brand new dashboard, which operates as a blank slate for any sort of data that I want to bring into this specific dashboard, create a visualization, as well as create a report on that. So if I want to generate data now, or generate a report, I can add a new chart, and as you can see, we're brought in here, and we can name this anything that we want. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you how to generate a very high level, and then we're going to get very specific. So we're going to recreate the project help status flow diagram. Here you can see that we can take the data, we can put it into a bar chart, we can put it into what I like to call the status flow or project help format, and then we can also put it on a timeline where we can map data to an individual line and graph those lines out together. In this situation, we're going to go with status flow, and as you can see, it shows me my last week by default. Under time period, I can come through here and say, I want to define a custom time period. And I want to start, let's say, 3 weeks ago. So now I've created a situation where I'm always tracking the last 3 weeks of progress. Or I can even go in and say predefined. And as you can see, I can say previous day, week, month, current month, and so on. So we can customize that, and we can even end on certain days as well. So if we want to track, everything from, let's go here, so everything that happened, not this week, but the prior 2 weeks, we can organize that as well. So completely customizable. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and choose predefined, and we're going to say previous month. So we're going to look at September 1st through September 30th. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to begin to filter for the different types of issues that I want in here. So right now, this project health is containing all of the issues. Let's say that I want to do a project health on clashes. I can specify that up there, and under here I could say, what type of issue is this? And I can specify that I want to see my clash detection items. As you can see here, this is our first look into this, but there's all that metadata that I listed at the very beginning of the webinar. All of the metadata that is available for you for these reports and dashboards. So now that I have all of that set up, I can even, so this means meet all of the following conditions, or I can have it meet any of the following conditions. So if I wanted to always be a clash, but include different trade tags or anything like that, I could come down here and say, you know what? I want to make this a clash, but I also want to make it to where, let's add a condition, but I also want to make it to where we can specify a particular tag. So as you can see, there's all my coordination meeting tags, all of this here. And if I come all the way down, I can say, I want to see all the clashes that are specific to that particular company. When I'm done with all of this, I can say okay, and that particular report is populated in my dashboard. Now, that being said, if I wanted to generate a report off of this, I could jump into delivery. I could say, I want this report to go out every week, Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I want it to happen at 6 a.m. And I want to push this out in a PDF, or I could even push it out in Excel. So I can say PDF, I want to include the company logo, and I just want a list of issues. And the data that I want in here is I want to see where it is on the clash grids. I want to see what test it comes from, and I want to see what file originates the objects. I can set up who I want to send that to, say OK, and now I have a real-time dashboard that updates immediately, but is also generating a report that is sending out on a timed basis. Now, if I want to get a little bit more specific, I can come in here and let's say that we look at something like a timeline. This is where the reporting tools get a little bit more in depth, but they're still very much simplified in the way that we extract the data. So here I can say, let's figure out where the data leads us, and then I'll go back up and name it. So under line type, as you can see, we are preparing to report on objects, which is going to be part of our 5.0 release, by the way, kind of a tidbit of information for anyone that's in the room. But if I come down here to line 1, I can say, I want to chart the issues that are being generated or tagged by, let me come down here, the plumbing contractor. Right? So Those are the issues of the plumbing contractor. So I can come in here and say plumbing contractor, overall issues. Once I do that, I can see that line of those issues generated by that specific contractor spread over the course of my line graph. Now, if I want to go in and I want to add a second line, I can jump in here, jump into the tags, and include, let's see if we can find, there we go, there's the electrical contractor. Type that in, make sure we see that information, and now we start to begin to chart these lines against each other. Now, keep in mind that we could do this for any of this metadata. So we can compare crash tests together. We can compare individual contractors. If we set up each contractor to have their own stamp category, we don't even have to go through the tagging process. We can actually report on their specific category. So setting up the data is just as crucial to your overall outcome of reporting as actually setting up the reports are. And a lot of that type of stuff is stuff that we discuss on Project Kickoff with our implementation team. But right here we can see, all right, let's just say that we want to name this plumbing contractor versus electrical contractor, just so that you guys don't have to watch me map out 40 lines here. I can say okay, and now we can see that this report or this visualization is now right alongside our project health visualization. Let's do one more. I just want to do one more to kind of show the granularity here. I can call this accountability. Accountability chart. We can leave it as a bar chart. Make sure that we don't show anybody that doesn't have issues. And I can say, I want to see who the assignee is. I want to see where they're at on that particular issue. And I want to sort this by who has the most issues and who has the least issues. And I can even filter out various types of data here, but we're going to keep this one very general. And now you can see I have an accountability chart of who has the issues and what their statuses are. And I can quickly see who has a lot of issues, who has the most open issues, and make decisions on workflow assigning, or not workflow assigning, but workload, assigning, or shifting responsibility in a project in the middle of a very hectic week or something along those lines. So very much diving into the way our reporting works. Now, let's talk about some of the other aspects of reporting, right? And that is communicating to people who are not involved with Revizto and people or systems that are using data from Revizto. So first of all, we have a couple different ways that we can do that. One of the easiest ways is to go into your reports and do exactly what I've ran through a couple different times here, and produce that PDF report that can then be shipped off to people who need the information but are not living and breathing models and coordination and design review and all of that. That will get them a hard copy of the issues, and it will also allow you to generate reports that you can document to act as, a piece of information saved for a certain release or something along those lines. We can also export out into Excel. Now, this gets really interesting because Excel usually indicates that someone doesn't want to look at it, they want to use the data. We've seen some very interesting things here, such as a Power BI visualization that is picking up Excel files that are automatically being sent to a Dropbox folder. So we can automate these Excel files to be populated into a folder that has an email address, and then Power BI can pick those up based on the new data that's being delivered automatically, and then put your issued data visualizations alongside your financial data visualizations or any other visualizations that you're having around logistics or anything along those lines. So as you can see here, we can actually send this out to Excel and actually retrieve that information in Excel. Now, on top of that, we also have our command console. So our command console, and I'm actually going to open up our website here because I could type it all in, but I want to actually show this from our support here. If you go into the manual of Revizto, and what we'll do here is, let's see here, we've got, so we've got the export. Hold on one second. Kind of lost in my own console. All right, here we go. So another thing that we can do is we can automate or export directly from the console by tapping into the Revizto console.exe and performing some of the commands we have here for exporting issues to Excel. Now, this is always a little bit different, and if you're good with the command prompt or good with Windows scheduled tasks, you can completely automate this process to come out from the console and drop those Excel files whatever Power BI is picking up. One thing I did want to mention is that we have not yet gotten to an issue API yet, but it is something that we are targeting. But in a lot of workflows, using the automated reporting features to get that to a specific folder for a business intelligence software, or using our Revizto console can be set up and can be completely automated so that your business intelligence software can pick that data up. So, very, very broad look at reporting, diving a little bit deeper than we usually dive in almost any circumstance. Some of the use cases that we see are very, very interesting. So, for example, let's dive into an actual project, and I want to point out some of these use cases before we open up for Q&A. So I'm going to give credit to Travis on this first example that I'm going to show here, and hopefully I'm opening up the right file. So for example, this is a project that is very, very focused on a fabricator's workflow. As you can see, all of the spool information has been put into Revizto via 3D. So we are actually mapping our spools out and delivering that to the field for communication from the field back to the office. Now, what's important about this is that, as you can see here, this is not a very extensive list of stamps. In fact, it's very simplified compared to what we would see with our GCs or our engineering or even some of our AE firms. But the use case here is very, very interesting. And what they are doing is they are adding information to pieces of equipment that can then be retrieved from the field. As you can see here, this submittal information available allows us to stamp a piece of equipment and actually add that submittal info directly from a file or a document management solution. This creates a situation where you can now run a report on this specific stamp and retrieve a list of up-to-date submittal information based off of what you have living in Box or in Procore or in BIM 360. We can see a situation where that submittal information is now being automatically listed and generating almost like a spec book. I've got to give another shout out to Brian Nickel at Hanson Rice, who is one of our customers that has actually begun to build spec books based on their designs from Revizto reporting. So very, very interesting use cases. As you can see here, I can grab any of this information that I want, and I can attach that right there to that piece of information. And now I'm reporting not on issues, but on actual supplemental information that can be imported or used by field personnel or project managers or anything along those lines. Some of the other interesting use cases that we've seen is the ability to report on 360 photos. So for example, if I jump into this project, what we're going to see here is that if I filter for a specific type of stamp, so stamp abbreviation, 360 photo, I can actually go directly to where 360 photos are located. And I can, if I'm using Instruction Site or I'm using Matterport, I can actually link that right here, and that link will be live. So in fact, what I'd like to do, I don't know if I can find any of that in here. Let me see real quick. I knew that there were some 360 photos in here, but I don't know if they're all under that stamp right there. However, this allows you to do a very similar reporting situation where you can gather a report of where have 360 photos been located. And if you're using something like those other systems, they all work off of links. We can tie in direct links right here. So for the sake of showing how a link works, I'm not going to struggle through going through out to my Matterport or anything like that, but I can populate a link right here and then activate that link directly from the chat, which means that if you're using OpenSpace, Matterport, Instruction Site, any of that, you can provide those links directly in relation to the model and go from your photo coordination to your model-based coordination. And if you are not using any of those sites, we got your back covered as well, because we now natively work with 360 photos, which can then be used as a way to deliver that exact same report that I was talking about. So we're not just talking about issue data here anymore. We're talking about supplemental information, such as anything that needs to be tied to an issue or anything that needs to be related to the model that you're using for coordination. So I wanted to throw those use cases out there because I thought that those would spark some ideas in the room, that this is not just about issue information. This is about any information that you need to gather up and report on that can be linked here or there based on what we offer inside of our system. One of the other things is, if we jump out to one of our more standard projects and we look at, jump back into the school project. Let me go ahead and not sync that real quick. A lot of these reports are based on, as you can see here, supplemental information in the issue. Actually, looks like someone else is demoing in the product right now. But this is where we can go in and, jumping back to the way that these stamps are created, now we can report on every single one of these categories automatically. So we've got some very specific use cases and some very standardized use cases. And keep in mind that everything that we covered today is part of our templating system and can be pushed from one project to another. So we've got about 10 minutes left. What I'd like to do, and I do apologize for going longer than usual, but what I'd like to do is open up the mic for Travis and David and kind of comb through some of these questions that we've got and some that still may be outstanding. All right, so Let's see here. Let's jump into the participants. So David and Travis, if you want to go ahead and unmute, you can, and let's kind of go through this.
Sounds good. So there was some interesting questions, Brett, as you were going through this. So there's a, pie and bar chart option, and then a couple more. But currently, this is not the other two are not an option in multi-project dashboards. So we had a couple questions of when maybe we could possibly see that.
Absolutely. You know what? That is a part that I breezed over, and I will cover that right now before we jump into any other questions. And that's my mistake. So let's jump into that real quick. So in the workspace, we have talked about all of these different dashboards, and these have all been project specific so far. If we want to do multi-project reporting across the license, we have added a dashboard tool at the top of the license, and this allows us to choose which license we want to report on, and now we can report on multiple projects at once. So as you can see here, we can see 4 different projects and the overall issues on those projects, as well as how many issues that we have across the entire license and what their priorities are, and different tags that come across the different types of issues or projects. So if I add a new chart here, what you're going to be able to see is that we have a lot of different options at this part. And by grouping, we can now group these by project. So as you can see, we can come in here, we can add a bar chart or a pie chart. We do not have line or project flow inside of multi-project dashboarding yet. But as you can see, we can see all the projects across the license. And I can even add a secondary grouping in here as well, just like I did before. As we can see that populating right there. And I can see all of the different projects that these individuals are on. But let's say that I only want to look at a few different projects, right? I only want to look at this project, and I only want to look at this project. I can isolate that right there as well. So we have the ability to gather information on projects across the license based on our project-based report or our license-based reporting. But right now we are only offering the bar chart and the pie graph in that sort of reporting. So hopefully that covers that and also shows everyone where they can actually access that multi-project reporting, which is really great for people that are overseeing 5, 6, 7 different projects. All right, David, anything else that was on the top of your mind there?
Yeah, let's see. So Chris O'Toole asked if when is the API open for Bentley products? I know that's currently being worked on. Can you speak to that at all, Brett?
Yeah, so right now our Bentley integration is underway. There were some things that took a little bit to get that ironed out. So we are not going to have an open API for Bentley products, but we are working with Bentley to develop that integration, just like we have with all of our Autodesk products. And that should be coming out quite soon, as we've already got internal testing and examples of that working right now. All right, one of the other questions I see here is, can you set up an automated overlay on the issues on the 2D documents per floor plan? So that's a very interesting question and something that ties into reporting quite a bit. Right now, we are discussing internally the idea of getting floor plans with issue locations into reporting. Right now, we cannot do that all in the same spot. However, what we can do, and what many of our clients are doing, is they can come into any individual floor plan that they want to work with, and they can highlight those issues that they want to see here, and then they can actually print those issues to a PDF. And you can do this across multiple filters and multiple PDFs. So while you cannot do it in reporting, what you're doing is you can activate a filter that mirrors what's happening in reporting, choose your sheets, choose if you want to export the issues as pins or markups, and export a set of PDFs that show the locations of those issues in a PDF and deliver those with the report. Right now, those are separated issues, but we have many clients that are bundling these together to not only show the dashboard, the list of issues, but also the set of sheets with the relevant issues on those sheets. So hopefully that answers your questions. We can do that, but it is two separate commands at this point. All right, let's see here. All right, so that question was from Kyle Honor. Okay, perfect. Nope, right now we can't automate it, but it is something that has, you're not the first person to ask us about that. That is absolutely for sure. So it is definitely on our radar. All right, looks like looks like we've got some questions that were answered. We've got Ralph Kreider answering a few questions. Look like those are all answered. So let's go back over to chat. All right, Pooja, and hopefully I said your name right. I do apologize if I didn't. Asked the question, when I try to access BIM 360 docs through Revizto, it only pulls info from my BIM 360 team instead of BIM 360, which contains all my projects. This is something that we've worked with a lot of clients on. So whenever we developed the integration, we understood that some companies would still be working on team and some would be working on the new docs format. We actually integrate with both. And on BIM 360, your BIM 360 administrator actually has to activate our third-party application, which exists on the Autodesk store. Once you do that, you should see both teams and your docs location, and you should be able to integrate with both. If that isn't enough to get you where you need to go with that, please email us, and we'd be happy to let your administrator know exactly how to do this. But that is very, very common. We've received that support step quite a few times. All right, everyone. Well, looks like we've gotten through all of the questions here. Now, what I'd like to say is as usual, the implementation team is here to help anybody that is looking to get involved in Revizto, stand up a project, or expand it within your company. If any of this information today wasn't clear, or we need some extra info on it, or you want to reach out to us because you've seen this for the first time and now you're interested in using it, please email us, please contact us. We're here to help, and we'll let everyone go for today if there are no more questions. So thanks everyone for joining. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. We're going to be trying to do many more of these webinars as usual to get this information out to the masses. And for everyone that wants to know about the recording will be packaged up and emailed to every single person that registered, whether you were able to attend or not. So thanks everyone, and hopefully we'll be seeing you around.